This week's episode was brought to you by Sophia Az, Jacob Williamson, Fleeksbox Conundrum, and the Dispatches Podcast. Thank you, Sophia Az, Jacob Williamson, Fleeksbox Conundrum, and the Dispatches Podcast. It's with the generous support of listeners just like you that we here at The Whole Rabbit get to keep dispatching our agents into the field to subterfuge the neighboring farms and prevent them from fomenting enough unrest to awaken the bloodthirsty genie that lives in the giant oak tree and will rampage across the countryside like a giant bloodthirsty soccer mom who's eaten one too many cartons of bath salts and can only be stopped by a laser in low Earth orbit that takes at least 20 minutes to align between each shot. It's a pain in the ass. If you'd like to help us keep the countryside free of eldritch horrors or just hear the second half of this episode, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you instant access to this extended episode, but every single one of our extended episodes going back before the lockdown times. I'll even send you a high-quality 5x5 sticker of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art, and you will even be given the keys to our Discord server, where a number of shy people has reached critical mass where we occasionally watch movies, play Scrabble, and discuss spirituality at weird hours. If you enjoy the show but would rather save your $5 for a 9-volt battery, then please consider giving us a like, subscribe, or share on your social media platform of choice. And if you really want to help the show, the best thing you can do is show a friend an episode you know won't judge you for listening to a bunch of weirdos talk about the devil. If you got deep pockets, check out the $20 tier for a monthly tarot reading from yours truly. This week we dive snoot first in George Orwell's New Age dystopian fairy tale Animal Farm. In the free section of the show, we contextualize Orwell's work by discussing his past and politics before diving into the history of the events that Animal Farm is allegory to. We discuss the Bolshevik Revolution and the rise of the communist state of Soviet Russia, what it has to do with generational astrology, the dawning of the New Age, and how all of these things are cleverly coded into George Orwell's story. In the free show, we discuss the CIA's involvement in the classic animated film and what fascism has to do with fairy tales. In the extended show, we go further to discuss Saturn's role in the revolution, the role of the working class, cancel culture, the Egyptian god Set, the Tower of Babel, Soviet propaganda, alchemy, Trotsky's assassination, and the exciting prospect of a military occupation by a foreign enemy. Thank you, and enjoy the show. What is it called when pigs work together?
What?
Collaboration?
I like that one.
What do you call a pig milking a cow?
Abhorrent.
It's not bad. Utter nonsense! Jones and his men were walking through the farm when Snowball and Napoleon jumped out at them from the bushes. You know what you call that?
What?
It was a ham bush.
Oh, yeah.
See, I was thinking ambush, and I didn't put it together.
How do pigs write top secret messages?
How?
With invisible oink.
In pig Latin?
Yes.
I like in pig Latin too.
And where do horses go when they're sick?
Where?
To the glue factory.
To the hospital.
Oh.
Hello everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just tell you that the energies which dictate the world we live in are new age aeonic yin-yangs between the zodiacal currents of Aquarius and Leo, penetrating deep into the mimetic fabric of our collective unconscious and expressing itself prolifically through the medium of popular mythology. Nay, we also unpack how these new age Aquarian currents, along with their shadowy aspects, manifest themselves in human affairs, which then are translated as allegory into one of the most important pieces of literature ever written, featuring a cast of talking animals guaranteed to warm your heart and steel your resolve against the filthy capitalist pig dogs who've undermined our glorious workers' revolution. Because this week, comrades, we're discussing George Orwell's fairy tale masterpiece, Animal Farm. I'm your host, Hack Rabbit, the one who forces everyone to show up to the secret cult meetings every week. I'm joined this week by the holy hound of the sacred wolf, Marisama.
Awoo!
Operations Commander Malachor 5.
Have you ever, in The Legend of Zelda, trapped a chicken in the corner and swung at it with your sword?
Don't do that.
Terrifying.
It's revolution, friends.
And the water of the wood, Hecka Astra.
Hello. This is the book about the spider that weaves words in the web, right?
Yes, wait.
I'm joking.
Weaving spiders, tread not here. All right.
Is this the one with the talking pig and the Bahram U?
Gordy was just an ordinary little piglet.
Where is everybody?
Oh no, it's not that one either.
How about Nicolas Cage and the pig?
Truffles.
Now, I love Animal Farm, and I personally wish every other kid were forced to read it, like I was. I think maybe more than anything else I've ever read about politics, this one got under my skin and stayed there permanently, as I think a good fairy tale should.
I should hope it gets under people's skin for some years to come.
As we will argue today, because it might just be the new aeon's first great fairy tale. Ideally, it can provide us, hopefully as children, a blueprint for how building our glorious future can go wrong, so we can be on the watch against it and someday arrive in the golden age of promise we know is possible if we all just work together.
Oops, Aquarian Revolution stuff again. It sounds like some of the big occult ideas in this episode are the same ones from our last episode.
Yes, absolutely. George Orwell's Animal Farm, like Metropolis, is a story of a workers' revolution. In both stories, the workers struggle for their humanity against a heartless, oppressive state which feeds upon its constituent members and steals their labor. And while Lang's Metropolis is a visionary allegory of a revolution in the not-too-distant future, Orwell's Animal Farm is an allegory about the not-too-distant past, specifically upon the historical uprising of the Bolsheviks and the subsequent workers' revolution which would transform Russia into a Soviet communist state.
The general theme of these works reminds me of what Lord Acton stated in a letter to an Anglican bishop, saying, quote, "Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Great men are almost always bad men, even when they exercise influence and not authority. Still more when you superadd the tendency of the certainty of corruption by authority." That's the end of the quote. So the underlying themes of Metropolis and Animal Farm, regardless of their stylistic differences, they are both metaphorical and fantastic representations of a societal power play, if you will. Stories like these become apt allegories of what is essentially a timeless theme in both human history and our future regarding the exercising of power from authority. They're themes and patterns that we should all take note of and remember, since, as Winston Churchill famously said, those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
1776 will commence again.
I mean, really, those who fail to learn from Orwell are going to get their cheeks clapped. That's really what the quote should say. Now, the brilliance of Animal Farm is that it takes this relatively alien subject from a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away and reframes it in an English-speaking culture with cute animal stereotypes that even children can follow along with. Frankly, that's one of my favorite things, when you take something big and complicated and you make it super duper simple where kids can understand it.
Yeah, metaphor.
The result that Orwell got was the creation of a gem of political commentary that transcends even its own historical context and can be extended, similar to the hidden narrative in Kubrick's The Shining, to other incarnations of political tyranny, striking directly at the essence of tyranny itself, laying it bare for all to recognize regardless of how quickly or cleverly it continues to update its much-needed disguises.
You know me.
As a bonus, a number of genuine occult Easter eggs appear throughout the story, which add a subtle yet coherent layer of extra depth to the tale, and even reflect the archetype sacred to Aquarius, the dawning age which is thought to be manifesting such revolutionary changes for humanity, or in this case, the beasts of England.
So just to kind of talk about this briefly, in the past, we've on this podcast talked about the Aquarian age, and it's an age of revolution and technology and sort of rethinking society as a whole.
Because that's what Aquarius really is. It's about community, groups of people.
And just to, bounce off of some of the things I've said quite recently, astrologically speaking, Pluto just recently moved back into Aquarius. And this is a generational aspect or planetary shift that lasts, over 2 decades at a time.
Because it takes a long time for Pluto to move zodiacal signs, because it's way out there.
Yeah, its orbit is very long, so it moves slow from our perspective. It's going to stay in Aquarius until September 1st. Today is the 29th of August, so in a couple days. It's going to go into retrograde back into Capricorn for a little bit to kind of finish up some of the Capricorn Pluto stuff that it needs to address before moving on back into Aquarius November 20th of 2024. And it's going to stay there until March 8th of 2043. I'm bringing this up again, of course, because some of the more significant times when Pluto in Aquarius happens on its previous cycle in terms of like the processional year, the very long cosmic year, it was the French and the US revolutions. So the metaphors and some of the themes of this book and Metropolis totally are talking about this Aquarian age of things.
Now, having been assigned Animal Farm in high school, I was surprised as an adult to discover that Animal Farm had been written close to the end of George Orwell's life, where he had long made himself a respected author in the arena of political or social commentary, autobiographical nonfiction, language, and culture. His most enduring works, however, are Animal Farm and, of course, 1984, which is his final novel before he died at the young age of 46. Despite being a democratic socialist himself and a lifelong ally of the political left, Orwell was even more so a lifelong enemy of totalitarianism in all its myriad forms, with Animal Farm placing special attention on the evils of Soviet Stalinism, although a few jabs at National Socialism are also thrown in for good measure, as they should be. According to Orwell, as per the Ukrainian preface to Animal Farm, we know that he was born a civil servant in Burma, India. He attended Eton College in Windsor, England, where he learned French from Aldous Huxley of all people, and then returned to Burma, where he served 5 years in the Imperial Police, saying upon the matter, "It did not suit me and made me hate imperialism." So, not a fan. Afterwards, Orwell spent many years as a starving author who was unable to get any of his works published, and it was during these times that he spent with, quote, "the poor and half-criminal elements who inhabit the worst parts of the poorer quarters." It was during this time, cohabitating with the poor, many of whom were honest laborers, that Orwell began identifying as a socialist, because, similar to Fredder's revelation in Metropolis, it didn't make sense for such a grand civilization to value the hands that built it so lowly. On this point, Orwell's mind never changed. To consider Animal Farm anti-leftist propaganda outright would be a big mistake.
To this, he said, "If people think I am defending the status quo, that is, I think, because they have grown pessimistic and assume that there is no alternative except dictatorship or laissez-faire capitalism." And then specifically regarding the intention of the book, he stated, "I meant the moral to be that revolutions only affect a radical improvement when the masses are alert and know how to chuck out their leaders as soon as the latter have done their job. The turning point of the story was supposed to be when the pigs kept the milk and apples for themselves. If the other animals had had the sense to put their foot down then, it would have been all right. What I was trying to say was, you can't have a revolution unless you make it for yourself. There is no such thing as a benevolent dictatorship."
Yeah, that's just some heavy stuff.
Yeah, especially because just something I really noticed as an adult rereading this, or as someone who's older, I guess. Part of the way that you get that dictator in the first place is the populace not being educated enough, or things being memory hold and history being as you'll see in the book. But it's amazing to me that when the revolution happened in the book, there was put forth to educate the animals and teach them how to read.
Well, this is kind of the problem, is that a lot of the campaigns that dictators ride on in the beginning, they don't come across as, evil plans or agendas that should concern you. And this is the same even in Nazi Germany. Like the writing that the Nazi party went on from the beginning, it was relatable to the people at the time. Like otherwise, if it's not relatable, people don't back a leader. What the leader does once they have the backing of the people is an entirely different story.
Right. They play it off, oh, it's for your own good. We'll be stronger if you allow me to implement these rules. And also the pigs would constantly bring up, do you want Jones back? And that was that's a threat. It's keeping them scared for the alternative.
It's unfortunate too, because then the people have this loyalty to the original idea that is the campaign that the party rode on in the first place.
Yeah.
Just to put it bluntly, Orwell kind of spoils the ending of our entire occult conversation, in so much as he says the revolution really is destroyed and corrupted and peters out when the constituent members don't stand firm on their own principles, because the revolution occurs individually in each person. So the collective good is strongly tied to the strong individual. So you have the collective good Aquarius, and then its opposite pole of Leo. That's the harmonious arrangement. You have to have the king inside, but outside it's a collective. Any other arrangement, it's going to get screwed up. And Animal Farm is a great way to explain how it can get messed up if you don't have that inner Leo monarch, the buck stops here energy. How it can spiral out of control into what we saw here in the 20th century. Well, we're in the 21st century now. Let's try and make it not as bad this time, which it could be worse.
So ultimately what you're saying is the revolution begins with you?
Yes, and it must must stay there. Otherwise, it's all gonna go flying apart. People will die. And so long story short, if you do all this zodiacal energy math, you can still be an ultra woke revolutionary leftist and be capable of reading Animal Farm as an illustration of how a well-meaning leftist revolution is vulnerable to, or even inclined to become corrupted by a creeping spirit of fascism, which is insidiously clever at disguising itself as its opposite until it's too late.
Right, because it's sometimes somewhat incorrectly said that the opposite of fascism is communism, right? Like communism is like the absolute most extreme left.
That's what I'm saying, is if you chose to see it that way, you could read Animal Farm with that interpretation and have it still be true, and even have these occult energies of Aquarius and Leo superimposed over it. So I say that because there's some pushback to Orwell, because people are saying that it's actually anti-leftist. I don't really think it is. It's just critical of the left.
Well, I mean, he was self-identified as a socialist, but still managed to make some commentary on how socialism can go awry. And so I think the general idea is that there's no particular absolute great form of government. There are going to be beneficial things that you can relate to in the ideologies of things like communism or socialism. But what happens when those become totalitarian dictatorships is really scary. And that's kind of what we're being warned against, is that no matter what methodology or ideology is used as the basis, when it becomes a totalitarian dictatorship, you lose everything that you fought for in the first place. And you can see examples of this in certain countries.
Correct. What I'm saying is, if you in your heart of heart believe that leftism and communism was the answer, you could use this interpretation that the evils that come into the revolution are inherently fascist.
Yeah,
Totally.
And I would be more comfortable with the left if they unequivocally accepted that about their own philosophy. But, read the book. That being said, the nuance of being a socialist himself, when it was very unpopular to be one, mind you, while simultaneously being a staunch critic of how socialism's most prolific forms had become corrupt, is, in my opinion, a quality as necessary as it is rare, now more than ever. After his poor period, though, Orwell, he even fought against the fascists in Spain with a band of Trotskyites, which he said he joined accidentally. But he claims to have barely escaped with his life when the, quote, communists, their supposed ideological allies, began actively pursuing them. So he was caught in this fight between Napoleon and Snowball. We'll get to that.
Wow.
Orwell was a communist who fought fascists in war, but he was also hunted by other communists, who he had plenty of reason to be skeptical of. Naturally, when Animal Farm was adapted into an animated film just a few short years later, this nuance became a bit of a nuisance, at least to the CIA.
Right, because Orwell's basically saying humans are animals. This book is a parallel to how humans govern themselves. Now, there's a crazy story behind that very iconic 1954 animated version of Orwell's book, and the CIA turns out to have had their hand in it.
What?
So Orwell died in 1950 and left the rights to his wife, Sonia. She, shortly after he died, sold it to film executive Charlton Alsop and Ferris Farr. Of course, she had no clue that these were actually CIA undercover agents working for the Office of Policy Coordination. And this particular group of people were a branch of the CIA that was involved in all kinds of covert operations under the USA banner.
This is wild. I had no idea.
Oops, I accidentally sold my dead husband's socialist cautionary manifesto to the literal Nazis! Oops.
I mean, it makes sense why they make you read it in school.
True. Like, now this is all making sense. I found this out this week, too. It was pretty amazing. So, just in case you don't know what covert operations might mean sometimes, it includes pro-U.S. propaganda as well as anti-U.S. propaganda abroad so that it can warrant a highly effective response by the U.S. themselves. That's kind of our style. And this was first implemented, this particular group, the Office of Policy Coordination. Their first job, their first mission was to influence the 1948 Italian elections. So that's the kind of stuff that the USA's CIA stuff goes into, right? So they got their hands in on this movie. They knew Orwell's Orwell's Animal Farm was being made into animated film in England, and they literally got their hands on the rights to it from the ground up. It was their money. So the CIA had John Halas and Joy Batchelor, and they chose them apparently because of their work on some of the documentaries produced by the Marshall Plan. Now, the Marshall Plan was the USA's economic plans to send aid to Western Europe after World War II, aid in the form of CIA money-backed art and culture. Of course, this was done with Britain's Ministry of Information as well. At the same time as the CIA was funding a movie abroad in England, I don't know if we can really call that abroad, but the US and the CIA didn't trust most of the people in Hollywood because of the Red Scare. And there was what is called the Hollywood Blacklist, which was a bunch of people that they were calling commies and, actors, pretty much cancel culture, like what they do with the woke mob now, right? Do that to actors. So they hired John F. Reed as the only American on the animation side of this Walt Disney production.
Wow.
Walt Disney. It's just funny because, it's not like he ever made anything for Nazis.
And, they put a lot of work into this. In 1954, this movie actually is pretty awesome in its skill, and they had a big team of people. None of them knew that this was actually backed by the CIA, though. And there was a lot of edits and rewrites to be made to the original plot. Script or whatever.
I have a question. So the Animal Farm animated movie is a Walt Disney production?
John F. Reed was an animator from Walt Disney.
Does that indirectly make Molly the horse a Disney princess?
Yes.
For the record,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
You know what I love about the CIA being involved in this is that the film is actually pretty close to the novel. And it amuses me that when the CIA spends big money and gets their fingers in something, it might just be to make tiny, small changes.
That's all that's needed with this Aquarian energy.
I did notice that they changed the lyrics to Beasts of England.
So one of the major changes that the CIA wanted to see was that the animals at the end would revolt and seemingly be successful in overthrowing the pigs in the final, part of the film, right? When they look at the pigs and they can't see any difference between the pigs and the men that are meeting now. That was probably the most important part that the CIA thought was important.
It's also very American that the donkey leads the charge.
It is. And Christian and satanic at the same time. I love that the CIA wanted the pigs to lose in the end when they're the pigs. Crazy.
America!
Yeah, they're pretty much trying to show their hand right in front of us in the media all the time, right? Like you could try to overthrow us, but we made this whole idea of Animal Farm, the animated film.
Yeah,
we got
dude,
this
we're
idea
like
from our money.
so far ahead of you.
We won. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks when you find these things out. So there's a little bit of a couple names I'm going to drop, and then we're going to move on. But there was a person named Frederick Warburg, and he was the original publisher of the novel and also a former MI6 agent.
Oh my God.
And he served as a consultant, suggesting that Old Major be given the appearance similar to Winston Churchill. Good choice.
Oh, yeah.
It worked. It's an iconic ass pig, if you ask me. And the CIA didn't really like how Snowball in the book is sort of portrayed as a relatively nice pig and was truly for the betterment of everybody. And in the book, it seems like Snowball was a good guy.
In so much as he represents Leon Trotsky and Orwell fought on the side of the Trotskyites, there's some sympathy there, it's true.
Right. So in the movie, they made Snowball and Napoleon seem just as menacing and dominating and fascist. One final bit here, to quote Wikipedia shortly, says that the investors also wanted the film to draw a distinction between the good and the bad farmers. So they didn't want this film to go into America, which is known for being like a bunch of farmers, I guess. They didn't want the farmers to get pissed off at the film, so they wanted some of the farmers in the film to look like good guys and weren't complete drunks and competent, individuals themselves, because otherwise that would have just gotten America pissed off, and then the farmers might have had a revolution on little micro Animal Farm levels. We don't want that.
It seems even more evident in the live action version, where I actually felt like I was supposed to feel bad for Jones.
Yeah, he's got a nice face, and his wife's a bitch.
Yeah.
In terms of the original novella, Animal Farm's title originally included a fairy tale, which, according to Sam Woodhouse, was an intentional choice. In the preface to the Audible edition, Woodhouse does intellectual backflips, albeit eloquently, to explain why Orwell would, known for his respect and exactitude of language, choose to label Animal Farm a fairy tale. This introduction, seemingly written in chronology to the animated film's release, seems, at least in my opinion, to be doing some light damage control
control to make Orwell's work more palatable for the establishment. While C.M. Woodhouse would have us think, and maybe accurately, that fairy tales tend to reflect the unfairness and cruelty built into life, I think Orwell was subtly attempting to indicate that fairy tales are stories where the fascist ideal wins, a theme that Guillermo del Toro plays with to great effect in Patton's Labyrinth, which coincidentally depicts the same fascists that Orwell fought against during the Second World War. It's a fun coincidence. Besides Volkish movements being particularly fond of fairy tales, to the point of believing in them as objective truth, they often contain themes of absolute power, good versus evil, and sometimes a transformation or redemption arc which dovetails with fascist emphasis on strong leader figures, national rebirth, and often a stark division between us and them. This is why people get so butthurt about Lord of the Rings. It's like, oh, that's all fascists. Now, even the genre of retrowave music, one of my favorites, is known to have a fascist dark side due to a proclivity for fascists to yearn ardently for an idealized past. There's people who believe that the medieval ages are a total lie and that it was like some golden age and nobody was ever sick and the rulers were just and fair, and like that's a whole belief system out there.
Yeah, and another thing I just realized reading the book again is that the damning scene at the end where the pigs and humans can't be told apart by the other animals, if you listen to what they're toasting to inside the house, Napoleon proclaimed that they're going to rename the farm back to Manor Farm, which is his rightful original historical name.
Yes.
So even they end up going full circle and transforming back into the thing that they had fought against. The farm thereby is transformed back into Manor Farm, a human-run farm.
Yes, which is its fairy tale aspect, but in a dark form. And you know, just off the cuff, we're going to do an episode about it someday. You know what film plays with this exact idea to great effect? Shrek.
It also has a donkey, too.
I would love to do an episode on Shrek.
It'll blow your mind, the that we will say about it, truly. Lion King, that one, like, whoa.
I mean, Shrek has a lot of this going on in it, and it's dealing with this problem of Manor Farm, because like Farquaad, that's what he wants. He wants to keep it Manor Farm. He doesn't want it to be abject workers farm. Damn it. Anyway, let's continue. So, as Mari mentioned, this idealized past, which the fairy tale ultimately returns us to, is the perennial evil that is Manor Farm. So to get into this a bit, the word manor comes from the Old French manure, meaning dwelling place. The term has a strong connotation of nobility and suggests the idea of personal property, both considered cardinal sins under the Marxist-inspired philosophy of animalism. Native to both revolutionary philosophies is the idea that private enterprise and social hierarchies are inherently fascist. Even America buys into this to some extent. Like, we don't knight people in America. Like,
Yeah, we have celebrities instead.
we do, but even still, they're supposed to be equal under the law.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's worked out really well.
Like the celebrities are quote unquote naturally popular. They're not like propped up by large money or anything.
Well, even if you have large money, or you're the president, or Justin Timberlake, you're supposed to be equal under the law because we're a nation of laws and not men.
Hey, you know, you can't be mad at Epstein. You know, he had connections with good people.
They said he could do it.
Absolutely, you know, absolutely standout citizen. You know, look at his friends. You can't be mad at him. Come on. Can't treat him equal.
And you know the guy who arrested Justin Timberlake, that vicious police officer? He didn't even know any of Justin Timberlake's songs. Do you believe that? He had no right to arrest Mr. Timberlake. He doesn't even know who brought Sexy back. He just benefits from it.
Wait, my boy Justin got arrested?
Yes, and we're very angry at the police officer who so egregiously made Justin subject to the laws that we all are. Fucking piece of shit.
I think I'm gonna throw up. That's disgusting.
Free Britney. Now, in terms of social hierarchies, especially on farms in England, the humans have always been at the top. Who would have thought? To humans like Farmer Jones, the animals he cares for and ultimately profits from at Manor Farm are not considered people. Farmer Jones specifically, however, is portrayed as particularly cruel, even as farmers are concerned, which is overshadowed only by his laziness and spurred by a case of rampant alcoholism that is quickly becoming his undoing. As Animal Farm is riddled with allegory, Farmer Jones is often said to represent Tsar Nicholas II, who was the reigning emperor of the Russian Empire but was forced to abdicate his throne after first helping initiate World War I, an affair he managed so poorly it resulted in a full-blown
full-blown revolution. Wikipedia describes this period thusly.
By early 1917, Russia was on the verge of total collapse of morale. An estimated 1.7 million Russian soldiers were killed in World War I. The sense of failure and imminent disaster was everywhere. The army had taken 15 million men from the farms and food prices had soared. An egg cost 4 times what it had in 1914, butter 5 times as much. The severe winter dealt the railways, overburdened by emergency shipments of coal and supplies, a crippling blow. Kind of sounds familiar there with the inflation stuff.
There's no inflation, Maury. In fact, prices have gone down, Maury. Haven't you seen the reports?
Yeah, this is the best economy of all time. Economics in action.
You don't want Hitler to come back, Maury, do you?
I'll be over there with bows in my hair eating sugar.
Now, by February, people had had enough and, racked with hunger, began looting shops and rioting in the streets. Hundreds were shot by the police, and eventually, they and the military would side with the mobs and force the Tsar to step down. When Tsar Nicholas II stepped down, it marked the end of a 300-year reign of autocratic rule at the hands of the Romanov family, who was swiftly imprisoned and exiled to Siberia. It's cold. And when the Bolsheviks took power later that year, Nicholas II, his wife Alexandria, and 5 children were taken down into a basement where they were shot and bayoneted to death. Their bodies were taken to the Koptyakty forest, where they were stripped, mutilated with grenades to prevent identification, and then buried. So hide your kids, hide your wives. The Bolsheviks, they'd be killing everyone. Now, this is represented in the book by the spontaneous revolt the animals hold when Mr. Jones fails repeatedly to feed them. And a fight breaks out when Jones and his farm hands go to fend off the animals who've broken into the storehouse to assuage their unbearable hunger.
Right,
So
they just go in there and they start whipping.
yeah, the cows are like, we're hungry. This is why they say revolutions are built on the backs of hunger. Like, you get enough hungry people together, your flag may just turn into a red star.
Red Star, Aldebaran.
I just love that the tarot card associated with Aquarius is the star. Crazy. Now, until those hungry conditions suddenly arose, the rebellion seemed as if it were but a distant dream, a mythologizing of some grand future the beasts of Manor Farm may never see themselves, passed on in hushed whispers and secret meetings, the way it had been for them in the mere weeks since Old Major died. Now, 3 weeks prior to his death, Old Major, the prized pig of Manor Farm, had gathered the animals together to make an announcement and discuss a prophetic dream he had had. In short, Old Major declared that he believed he would soon die, and that he had, in his old age, realized the meaning of life so far as it was possible. After all, Old Major, or Willington Beauty, as he was known to the humans, had lived a long, leisurely life free of the threat of slaughter, and, given an unspeakably rare privilege, combined with the advanced intelligence known of pigs, was trusted for his word. He told the assembly bluntly that life was both cruel and short for the animals of England, that their labors, the products they produced, and even their offspring born of them were stolen by the humans for their own selfish benefit. Even their lives were not their own, and that after years of cold, hunger, and toil, they, the dogs included, would be ruthlessly murdered by humanity the moment their usefulness had been expended. Cynical as this was, Old Major told them that it was not necessarily the natural way of things, and that if humanity could be overthrown, there would be enough prosperity that each animal could live in abundance with a fraction of the effort, and none of the cruelty they knew today. This, he declared, was inevitable, and that if the animals of Manor Farm, and eventually all of England, would only abide by a certain set of civic principles or commandments, their new society would flourish should they ever succeed at casting off the yoke of the human race. Remember always your duty of enmity towards man and all his ways. Whatever goes upon 2 legs is an enemy. Whatever goes upon 4 legs or has wings is a friend. And remember also that if in the fighting against man, we must not come to resemble him. Even when you have conquered him, do not adopt his vices. No animal must ever live in a house or sleep in a bed or wear clothes or drink alcohol or smoke tobacco or touch money or engage in trade. All the habits of man are evil. And above all, no animal must ever tyrannize over his own kind. Weak or strong, clever or simple, we are all brothers. Also sisters and everything in between. It's 2024, Old Major. No animal must ever kill any other animal. All animals are equal. This, he explained, was the revolutionary philosophy of animalism, and, if followed in earnest, would lead to a utopian society owned by its laborers who benefit directly from said labors.
This sentiment kind of reminds me of a picture that I drew back in grade 10. And it's a baby decked out in graduation attire, complete with the cap. And I wrote on it, "You are about to become Canada's most valuable natural resources." Have you seen what they do to valuable natural resources?
Ooh,
That's dark.
you're a dark little poet, aren't you? Little rabble rouser.
Well, I mean, this is kind of why he's pointing out, like, not to become like those that were overthrown, because there is an exploitation of the people as natural resources that happens. You fall into the same vices.
Yeah, because you class yourself away from them. Like, you make a distinct difference, like, oh, we're not like them, we're more special or more equal or whatever.
Yeah, but it's that exact feeling of, well, we're more special because we did it, and now we're the leaders,
Yeah.
that makes that divide that ends up.
It enables that action of fascism, yeah.
Yeah, it enables the treatment of the populace as simply resources to be exploited.
You know, this is touching upon the idea of the 14th Amendment in the USA. At some point, a slave owner went north and into a territory where slavery was illegal, and the Supreme Court ruled that that slave was his property. And like, they didn't do anything about it then, but the 14th Amendment came on later and changed that whole idea, because it's an amendment that's talking about your property, but your property can never be another human according to that amendment. So I think that's just a valid point to talk about right now, because you aren't a natural resource according to that amendment. Like, nobody can exploit you that way as a right, which is kind of beautiful.
Yeah, well, tell that to the fucking aliens who think we're corn, Malachor.
Oh man, I'm already talking to them. I'm working on it. They say we're corn.
Now, Old Major, in his championing of animalism, is often compared allegorically with both the German philosopher Karl Marx and the Soviet revolutionary Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, pioneers of what is broadly known as communism, which, according to the Oxford Language Dictionary, is a political theory derived advocating class war and leading to a society in which all property is publicly owned, and each person works and is paid according to their abilities and needs. Sounds nice. This, like an animal farm, was not intended to remain a local revolution, but an ongoing one that was meant to spread like wildfire to every government in the world, or in the animals' case, all the farms in England. To accomplish this, the Soviets employed a program called Communist International, or Comintern.
Sounds like an 80s video game. The Comintern resolved its Second Congress in 1920 to, quote, struggle by all available means, including armed force, for the overthrow of the international bourgeoisie and the creation of an international Soviet republic as a transition stage to the complete abolition of the state, unquote.
I can no longer sit back and allow communist infiltration, communist indoctrination, communist subversion, and the international communist conspiracy to sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids.
The animals accomplished this through the use of pigeons, who were sent out to inform the animals of the other farms about the successful revolution at Animal Farm and preach the tenets of animalism. While pigeons have traditionally been used to carry secret messages, a stool pigeon refers to a spy or informant, and coup can also refer to a military overthrow. I thought that was kind of clever. Like Old Major, both Karl Marx and Vladimir Ilyich Lenin would die long before their global revolution could ever hope to be achieved. Heck, long before the revolution could fully be achieved in their own homeland. But they both remained potent symbols of the revolution itself, viewed as a sort of martyr or messiah of the cause. These various ideas are coded into Old Major's proper name, Willington Beauty, which etymologically denotes both the idea of willow trees and a farm. The willow tree is an appropriate symbol for Old Major, as willow is historically associated with mourning. He dies, sometimes referred to as a weeping willow. Most importantly, willow is known to be able to grow an entire tree just by merely planting one of its branches, a reference to the viral nature of the International Communist Revolution. Lastly, willow has long been associated with Artemis, who is likewise associated with wild animals, chastity, purity, and sometimes turning the human hunter Actaeon into a deer who is subsequently chased and eaten by his own hunting dogs, an apt symbol for the animal rebellion.
So Old Major, he tells him about this dream, right? And at the conclusion of it, he's saying he remembers a song that he used to hear when he was a young pig.
Yes, it's a bit like how secret societies always claim to have got their boon from an older order. This is what Old Major says. He's like, oh, I was given this tune as a baby pig, but I don't even think my parents knew all the lyrics. They just learned it from a far away, distant time, you know? So there is some communist mythologizing here as well. Like, did Old Major just make up this song? It's hard to know. Or did it come from a former golden era?
He's just like a pig crowley. Like, hey, I made the song.
The Beast of England. Take it away, Hecka.
I don't know if you actually want me to sing it. I don't really want to sing it.
Sing it!
But no. I don't want to sing it. I have stage fright.
Sing it in a way that'll make all of our British subscribers immediately send us hate mail and unsubscribe. That's what we're going for here.
Oh, dear Lord.
We believe in you.
Bye.
Just don't mess up. No pressure.
Oh, thanks. Beasts of England, beasts of Ireland, beasts of every land and clime, hearken to my joyful tidings of the golden future time. Soon or late the day is coming, tyrant man shall be overthrown, and the fruitful fields of England shall be trod by beasts alone. That's some of the lyrics.
How's the spider supposed to write all that in a web? That's what I want to know. It's
So I kind of feel like this entire ideology presents a question of power and equality. And it gives you, in general, a sense of hope, but also kind of like a deeper philosophical question regarding power and equality. And I think it's only natural for the underprivileged of a society to desire equal rights, power, and fair treatment. And this has been seen throughout human history across cultures, whether it's the poor or it's women or minority groups. The concept of equality, or what is just and fair, can be summarized by the old saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So a gander is a male goose. And essentially this phrase has been used many times to metaphorically state it's only fair. Like, if you can do it, I can do it, basically. So there's this idea of, all animals are equal. And we see in Animal Farm the questioning of why the pigs, as the authority, should get to eat all the apples and drink all the milk. And the authoritarian response to such an inquiry regarding fairness is to simply justify the unequal dispensation of goods. In this case, the pigs claimed that they needed the apples and milk for their brains, and that it was proven with science. Like, you can't debate this because it's proven with science. And even the pigs, who had also started off as equally disadvantaged as the other animal on Jones's farm, they eventually become greedy, power hungry, and enforcing. And in doing so, they're no longer the disadvantaged or minority group. And there's quite obviously an inequality.
It's called reparations, hecka.
So by displaying Old Major's skull, it becomes an item that's on display to serve as a kind of loyalty artifact. It's a symbol of animalism, and because the pigs are displaying it, it becomes something directly linked to the rule of the pig. If anyone were to disagree with the pig's conduct, laws, or reign, then they can immediately be thought of as inherently anti-animalism. And this is a clever method of manipulation using symbolism. Orwell himself was very likely drawing upon the use of Lenin's corpse as the major inspiration for the role of the skull of Old Major in the book.
We actually talked about this in our zombie episode, which I suppose is kind of disrespectful, about how the mummified body of Vladimir Lenin has been continuously on display in Red Square since 1924. Like, since the events of the Animal Farm story in Russia, has Lenin's dead body been on view for all to see?
I think by now it's probably a wax figure.
Dude, they take it out of its glass case and they clean it every few years.
Oh.
There's video of them doing this. Like, they'll scrub his skin, they will put a coat of wax. Like, they work really hard to keep this corpse from rotting.
Oh my god, he's probably pickled by now.
Oh, he pickled.
Probably, I know, but like, think about how quickly that shit would go up in flames. But skulls, they last. I feel like a skull would be better.
There is no flame in Russia hot enough to burn down communism.
Orwell also points out that Old Major's life was not comparable to Assault of the Earth followers like Boxer, who had only ever known the struggle of hard labor. Both Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin were born to upper middle class families that were not really known to have held any blue collar jobs, and they both died of natural causes in old age, although they were fairly young for modern standards. This difficult caveat of both communism, that it was born from the minds of essentially intellectuals, but intended for the working class, is dealt with in Animal Farm by the gatekeeping of animalism by the pig, who were understood to be the smartest animals on the farm. They were the ones who taught themselves to read and write. They were the ones who distilled the essence of animalism into the 7 commandments, which were writ large for all to see.
The cool thing about these is that they apply to rabbits.
I love how they can't get the rabbits to do anything in this story. Like, they exist out in the wild. I bet they have their own weird rabbit cult.
And rats too. And also the raven is just like doing whatever the hell he wants.
Rabbits are just worshiping Satan out in the woods.
Having a good time.
Procreating without abandon.
Fucking.
Coming in and eating all the carrots, shooting all the lasers, doing all the things.
Sounds awesome.
Sneaking
Hanging out with
around in
aliens.
stealth suits. I'm not gonna be a part of this farm bullshit.
blowing up windmills. Or, I mean,
That was us, wasn't it?
yeah, probably.
Anyway, 7 commandments.
The 7 Commandments!
1. Whatever goes upon 2 legs is an enemy. 2. Whatever goes upon 4 legs or has wings is a friend. 3. No animal shall wear clothes. 4. No animal shall sleep in a bed. 5. No animal shall drink alcohol. 6. No animal shall kill any other animal. And 7. All animals are equal.
And it was decided upon that that included the rat and the rabbits, the wildlife.
Yeah, and don't forget kangaroos.
Gotta represent the Aussies. Yeah,
Yeah, but they're 2 legs, but they're aight.
they're all right. They go upon 4 sometimes.
Kangaroos are the pugilists.
They have enough advantages. They took over a whole island.
You think the rats represented the homeless or the criminal class or something like that?
Well, to me, the wild animals seemed more like they wanted to stay wild. Like, they didn't give a fuck about any of that stuff. So, like,
That
tribal
term-
peoples or indigenous peoples that still live that way, that's kind of how I would view it. Or salt of the earth people.
It translated to me like what people in a society that thinks of itself as civilized, the rats would be what they would think of as being savages.
Yeah.
Animals are people. This book is just a commentary on that fact.
No, people
Animals.
are animals.
It's just that some animals are wild. I don't know. There's just some wild animals is all.
What are you saying, nature boy?
They don't care. The wild animals don't care about society. They're like, you guys are trying to work together. Like, we're out here just doing our thing. Like, why do you guys
Yeah.
have rules?
I think
Like,
it would
what?
also apply to how certain people in a society might view the homeless or criminals as being savages. Like they live on the farm, but they aren't contributing to the farm.
Ah, okay.
I think it could be applied as metaphorical to that, but it is decided at the beginning that they're still equal. You know, people are people.
So all this being said, the pigs likely represent the intellectual, who, despite not being the working class themselves, are the gatekeepers of revolutionary philosophy and entrusted to explain it to the actual laborers. After all, a great number of the beasts on Animal Farm do not have the same intellectual qualities the pigs do, save perhaps for Benjamin the donkey, who refuses to cooperate with anyone beyond what is absolutely necessary. The dogs could read just as well, but never had any inclination to use this ability beyond a bare minimum. Muriel the goat could read a bit better than the dogs and would sometimes read to others. But even the pigs, most devoted followers, the horses, at best, they could memorize the letters of the alphabet, with the boxer being limited to 4 at most. I think this is a good point that also applies to Thelema or Christianity just as much as it does to communism. Like, it's got this intellectual nuance to it that most of the followers just are not gonna get. I think this is a problem with Aquarian movements in general. That's why everybody has to be a king or a queen. They have to be possessed of everything a society would need in and of themselves.
It's definitely a balance between these forces, astrologically of the lion and the Aquarian. You know, these social resources that we could have in a, almost oligarchical rich versus poor society. We could still have social programs that's like easing the, suffering, I guess, for the not so fortunate.
I mean, I still believe education is the most important thing
Yeah.
in anything at all.
Like it's a balance between like, yeah, we're all worthy of being like in that elite class, and that should definitely be an option for us. It's the non-existence of a clear path, I guess, that frustrates populace.
Well, I mean, having a strong leader is a good thing in general, especially, well, only really if that leader is interested in uplifting those below him, lifting up of people through education and social benefits programs, I think is an admirable thing. I mean, that's what a good leader would do. But you have to understand that people are going to pick out leaders. Like, we're a social species. That's what we do by nature. And likely person to the top is those that search for power and have no one else's good interests in mind. So
Right. And I think that Orwell intentionally put roles of characters into certain groups of animals or particular animals. I think that's like a little bit of the hidden stuff, right, that we are shown in the film or in the book, that animals are almost like different classes of people. I don't want to say races.
or cultures, or I would
But
say
it does apply to all of those. It does check all the boxes off of social classes and racial and just environmental.
the intellectual class. And he even showed in the book that there were pigs that were speaking out and saying, this is not what old Major said. This is not what what we're supposed to be doing.
At the start, yeah.
Yeah. And so that he shows the pigs infighting, which is also to show that not every intellectual is a bad person, but unfortunately, the intellectual that rose to power was the most sociopathic one.
Technically speaking, those pigs that spoke out were doing the correct thing. That's what we are all called to do. We're called to understand all of this highfalutin philosophy. We're also called to do the work and to be accountable and responsible for ourselves. If the king's not inside of us, then it's going to be outside of us, and that's when the bad stuff happens. And as long as the king is inside of us, then it will be possible to have a community of equals outside of us.
Right.
It's a lot to expect of every single individual, it really is. But here we are. Animal Farm deals with this problem throughout the entire story because the rest of the animals, now they were all but totally illiterate, and many, including the sheep, hens, and ducks, were unable to even learn the 7 commandments by heart. To combat this problem, the pigs decide that these 7 commandments can really be simplified into the easily memorable slogan, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad.
4 legs good, 2 legs bad.
Which still confuses the chickens. But it becomes a mantra of the sheep who repeat it in a chorus whenever critical discourse threatens a state of total obedience.
Sheep have long been used as symbols for innocence, purity, and herd mentality. Their childlike naivety is the unfortunate reason for their ability to be used en masse for the pig's agenda. And this relationship of childlike innocence and naivety makes the possibility of groupthink possible. This idea of groupthink is something that George Orwell expands upon in his next novel, 1984. But it suffices to say here that because of their inability to understand the more complex nature of intellectual matters, they follow what they're told with trusting nature, like naive children do. The herd aspect of the many can also be related to the many aspects of Osiris, whose ba is symbolized by a ram. This primary embracing of the flock, it's ultimately a Saturnian expression that's linked to harvesting, but it's also meant to come with the responsibilities of a benevolent shepherd to embrace and protect, and we see the pigs lacking in that, quite obviously.
Ironically, despite the cries of obedience, this all-pervasive slogan of the sheep, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, stands seemingly at odds with Boxer, the hardest and most loyal worker the farm has, who finds himself in tears after kicking a human unconscious during the Battle of the Cowshed, mistaking him for dead. Tears roll down his face. He's clearly very upset, and considering Boxer is the ideal comrade, the fact that this slogan is not reflected in his heart, it speaks to how limiting or even antagonistic it truly is when attempting to summarize the spirit of animalism.
Makes sense.
Boxer is best boy.
What if you'd like to hear the rest of our discussion where we talk about
Cancel culture, Molly with the ribbons, why Benjamin is Satan,
I like Satan.
who the Raven Moses represents, much deeper down the rabbit hole about the occult symbolism in the novel, what it all has to do with Stalinistic totalitarianism, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of at least $5 will not only get you this extended episode, but every single one of our extended episodes going back before the 20s. I'll send you a 5x5 high quality vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art. You'll get a holographic sticker if you subscribe at our $10 tier, where you get our notes, which are voluminous and exhaustive, where you can read with your eyeballs instead of your ears,
I made a sticker.
which you can order from within our Discord server, which you will get the secret keys to when you subscribe on Patreon, which I think is worth the price of admission, where you can join us in the Rabbit Grove and help us plan our secret spy stuff that we do a lot. Thank you, everybody. Eat carrots, shoot lasers.
Pew, pew, pew.
Pew pew.